Closing the minority homeownership gap won't come without discomfort. It's been long understood that a nation of stakeholders makes for a stronger union. And for that reason, closing the minority homeownership gap has been a goal and a topic of discussion for decades now. However, despite a lot of talk and a modest amount of action, the homeownership gap for Black and Latino communities has remained stubbornly large. Homeownership percentages only increase when a large number of first-time homebuyers enter the market. So this is not an easy problem to solve. It's time that we recognize that closing the minority homeownership gap won't come without a ton of fresh capital and some serious discomfort for the industry and policymakers in the coming years. Below is what I think is required to make a quantum leap forward in this regard. First, we have to address housing affordability. The lack of inventory has driven price points to record highs in almost every major market in the country. Basic supply and demand principles require a substantial increase in affordable housing stock to improve affordability, especially for first-time buyers. The fixed costs associated with building an entry-level home are fundamentally the same as they are for building a luxury home. A coordinated effort between federal and local policymakers is necessary to address the substantial barriers that are preventing the creation of housing stock required to meet the growing demand. This is going to be a tough one. Secondly, we need to close knowledge gaps. Purchasing a home is one of the largest and most complicated financial transactions that most people will ever do in their lifetime. Many minority first-time home buyers aren't just the first time they've purchased a home, it's probably the first time anybody in their family has purchased a home. Language barriers and just a lack of general information about the process just makes the entire ordeal even more intimidating. Access to housing counseling is not a nice to have. It's a must have for most minority buyers. And I also believe that financial and home ownership education should be taught in public schools. In terms of preparing our youth for life in the real world, I can't think of many things that are more important than that. Access to capital, mortgage capital. Without generational wealth, most first-time buyers will require a low down payment mortgage to purchase their first home. And while low down payment loan programs are available, most come with what I call a poor tax. Lenders charge higher interest rates and fees for loans they deem as riskier. Unfortunately, those surcharges known as risk-based pricing are typically imposed on minorities and the people who can least afford them. Additionally, Latinos and immigrants are almost twice as likely to own a small business, which is great, except when you're trying to qualify for a mortgage where self-employed borrowers are far more likely to get turned down. Lenders need to utilize new metrics for self-employed borrowers, and the industry needs to stop the counterproductive practice of upcharging low and moderate income homebuyers. And industry diversity. To say that the real estate and mortgage industries lack diversity might be the understatement of the century. This is more than a problem. It's a crisis. You could literally fit the number of legitimate Black and Latino executives in the industry in one small room. And if you remove D&I executives, you might fit them in a phone booth. Occasionally, companies will ask my advice on how they can improve diversity in their companies. And I tell them they need to start with their operations and with their senior management team. Diverse executives will attract diverse operations personnel, and diverse operations will attract a diverse sales team. It's not rocket science, but change is really hard, and it's not going to happen without some real pain. I also believe we need to see more minority-led companies in the industry, brokerages, mortgage bankers, builders, and other businesses in the housing ecosystem. And not just mom and pop shops, large, well-capitalized businesses that have scale and have influence. Closing the minority homeownership gap is the first step in closing the even larger wealth gap in America. We already know this is not going to be easy, but there's a lot at stake. With massive demographic changes happening everywhere, America's leadership in the global economy depends on the economic well-being of our minority communities. It's a good time right now to start thinking about strategies. I've been talking about this for a while. Our industry is going through some substantial changes. There's a big slowdown. We had the hottest market in history over the last couple of years, and all of a sudden it stopped cold when interest rates spiked in a way that we haven't seen in decades. This is, not all bad. I think the market needed a chance to correct itself. And like I've said many times, it's a good opportunity to start creating new strategies. Closing the minority wealth gap and homeownership gaps are critical, and they're not going to happen just because we want them to happen. They're not going to happen with incremental steps forward. It's going to take something really big, and it's going to take big moves, bold moves, and quantum leaps forward to be able to make that difference. We need more housing inventory. We need more capital, and we need diversity in the industry. And it's not just because diversity is the right thing to do. It's because diverse ideas are necessary to reach diverse populations. So I'm thinking about writing an op-ed that details this in a more granular way. And I want to get it published by a major enterprise like the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or American Bankers or something like that, because I want to lead this dialogue. I think that Latinos need to start leading this dialogue more. And I think people are hungry for actual solutions and not just talk. So thank you for listening, and send me your thoughts on this subject. I know a lot of you are out there at the point of sale dealing with this, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Thank you.